I have a question. I remember possibly one of the hardest things on the ACT were the literature questions. So would you have any advice on that? Because if it was hard for me, I imagine it's also hard for other people.
Sure, yeah. The ACT is one of those tests that you can take many times to try to increase your score. I know I took it 3 times, I got the same score every time, so you know, that's how things work. But I do have some information about the ACT English content and the writing portion, and later on we're going to talk a little bit more. I think we have some questions relating to vocab and what you can be doing today to improve your score later on the ACT. So know that there are 75 English language arts questions that deal with writing. 40 out of the 75 relate to usage and mechanics. And so there may be a question where you have to correct the grammar or punctuation, or you may have to do subject-verb agreement. So just so you know, there's 10 questions about punctuation, so you really need to hone up those skills. Know what a semicolon is, and quotation marks and apostrophes. Grammar and usage makes up 12 questions, so you'll have to know subject-verb agreement, tenses, verb tense, irregular verbs, which we've done a back to basics on before. You'll get a sentence with a word or a phrase underlined, and you'll have to decide what is the most appropriate response or if it's correct as it is. There's also 18 questions on sentence structure, and these can be really hard because you're looking for misplaced modifiers, misplaced adjectives and adverbs, things dealing with clauses, independent and dependent, and even parallel structure. So if anything I'm saying right now sounds like Greek to you, that would be the thing to look up and start focusing on. There's also questions dealing with rhetorical skills. There are 35 of these. Any of my AP kids out there that might be listening, you guys are always having to deal with the rhetorical structure, rhetorical triangle. Other students may not be familiar with that if it's not something that's being asked of you, but if you're going to take the ACT, you're still going to have to know it. So you're thinking about writing strategy. There's 12 questions related to writing strategy. You have to identify an author's purpose. So you need to be able to understand what the author's main point and theme is. That means you would have to fully read the text, and that's where your annotation skills would come into play. Then there are 11 questions on organization. You choose correct introductory or transitional or closing sentences. You have to decide what the placement is. So they'll give you a paragraph with it numbered, and you have to kind of mix and match these sentences. And then style, this is more creative. There's 12 questions on this. You're trying to pick out things that are redundant or too wordy. This is when you really need to focus on diction, meaning word choice. And you have to choose the words and sentences that keep the tone and the style and the overall flow of the paragraph moving. So those are some things to think about whenever you are studying for the ACT. If language arts is not one of your, maybe your better subjects, maybe you want to focus more on that. If you're better at math, maybe you can let that one kind of slide for a while, but there are plenty of websites for free that you can take practice tests on for all the subjects in the ACT and kind of get an idea of where you're going to fall in the scoring, okay? And you can focus on where to study more. So please send in any questions you may have about any of these standardized tests. And like I said, later on today in our show, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the vocab that deals with the ACT.